You have probably heard about ancient Greek philosophers like Plato, Aristotle, Socrates, but have you ever heard about the pre-Socratic, often going by the name of the obscure, or Dark Philosopher? Heraclitus of Ephesus was known to be active in around 500 BC, having wrote a single work, only fragments of which have survived. Most of the data that has been collected from Heraclitus comes through Plato, Aristotle, and other philosophers like Theophrastus, who knew his book and said that it seemed only half finished, a kind of hodgepodge he attributed to the author's melancholy. Diogenes Laertius reports that the work was divided into 3 sections, one on cosmology, one on politics and ethics, and one on theology. Unlike most other early philosophers, Heraclitus is usually seen as independent of the several schools and movements later students assigned to the ancients, and he himself implies that he is self-taught. Already in antiquity, his paradoxical philosophy, appreciation for wordplay, and cryptic oracular epigrams earned him the epithets, the dark and the obscure. He was considered arrogant and depressed, a misanthrope who was subject to melancholia. Studying Heraclitus can prove very difficult due to the complexity of his interpretations. Diogenes Laertius relays the story that the playwright Euripides gave Socrates a copy of Heraclitus's work and asked for his opinion. Socrates replied, "The part I understand is excellent, and so too is, I dare say, the part I do not understand." Also, according to Laertius, Timon of Phlius called Heraclitus the Riddler, a likely reference to an alleged similarity to Pythagorean riddles. Timon said Heraclitus wrote his book rather unclearly. According to Timon, this was intended to allow only the capable to attempt it. But what did Heraclitus actually believed in, and what was the core of his ideas? A key concept of the Dark Philosopher's mindset was panta rhei. Everything flows, as the famous saying goes. You cannot step into the same river twice. With this sentence, it is implied that just like water, we are all a subject of time, and time is ever flowing. This notion of constant change is also appreciated by a later philosopher, Friedrich Nietzsche, who not only agreed on this view, but shamed other thinkers that tried to provide different explanations over the never-ending flow, of which we are always experiencing. The aim of Heraclitus's unusual approach is to produce readers who have a proper grasp of the world and their place in it. Sound thinking is the greatest virtue and wisdom, to speak the truth and to act on the basis of an understanding of the nature of things. Such an understanding can result only from an ability to interpret the language of nature. The proper understanding allows one to act in a harmonious way. Heraclitus urges moderation and self-control in a somewhat conventional way. He also recommends the conventional Greek goal of seeking fame. The best choose one thing above all, the everlasting fame of mortals. The many gorge themselves like cattle. To die in battle is a superior kind of death. Those who drink to excess make their souls wet and accordingly harm them, for a healthy soul is dry. Those who experience better deaths attain better rewards. Those who lie will be punished. For men who die there await things they do not expect or anticipate. Some of these remarks tend to suggest an afterlife with rewards and punishment, although his belief in a continued existence is controversial. In any case, Heraclitus views the soul as the moral and cognitive center of human experience. In political theory, he maintains that one good man is worth 10,000 ordinary people. He criticizes his fellow citizens for banishing a distinguished leader. The adult citizens of Ephesus should hang themselves, everyone, and leave the city to children, since they have banished Hermodorus, a man preeminent among them, saying, "Let no one stand out among us, or let him stand out elsewhere among others." Evidently, he trusts the few and distrusts the many. He sees good laws as being reflections of universal principles. Speaking with sense, we must fortify ourselves in the common sense of all, as a city is fortified by its law, and even more forcefully. For all human laws are nourished by the one divine law, for it prevails as far as it will and suffices for all and is superabundant. The divine law on Heraclitus's view is probably continuous with the laws governing the cosmos, which maintain justice through opposition. In one fragment, Heraclitus writes, "This world order, cosmos, the same for all, no god nor man did create, but it ever was and is and will be, ever-living fire, kindling in measures and being quenched in measures." This is the oldest extant quote using cosmos or order to mean the world. Heraclitus seems to say fire is the one thing eternal in the universe. From fire, all things originate and all things return again in a process of never-ending cycles. Plato and Aristotle attribute to Heraclitus a periodic destruction of the world by a great conflagration known as ekpyrosis. Heraclitus more than once describes the transformations to and from fire. Fire lives the death of earth, and air lives the death of fire. Water lives the death of air, and earth that of water. The turnings of fire, first sea, and of sea half is earth, half fire burst. Earth is liquefied as sea and measured into the same proportion as it had before it became earth. However, it is also argued by many that Heraclitus never identified fire as the arche. Rather, he only used fire to explain his notion of flux, as the basic stuff which changes or moves the most. Others conclude he used it as the physical form of logos, the rational structure or ordered composition of the world. On yet another interpretation, Heraclitus is not a material monist explicating flux nor stability, but a revolutionary process philosopher who chooses fire in an attempt to say there is no arche. Fire is a symbol or metaphor for change. Perspectives of this sort emphasize his statements on change, such as "the way up is the way down," as well as the quote, "All things are in exchange for fire and fire for all things, even as wares for gold and gold for wares," which has been understood as stating that while all can be transformed into fire, not everything comes from fire, just as not everything comes from gold. Heraclitus goes beyond the natural philosophy of the other Ionian philosophers to make profound criticisms and develop far-reaching implications of those criticisms. He suggests the first metaphysical foundation for philosophical speculation, anticipating process philosophy, and he makes human values a central concern of philosophy for the first time. His aphoristic manner of expression and his manner of propounding general truths through concrete examples remained unique. Heraclitus's paradoxical exposition may have spurred Parmenides' rejection of Ionian philosophy. Empedocles and some medical writers echoed Heraclitean themes of alteration and ongoing process, while Democritus imitated his ethical observations. Influenced by the teachings of the Heraclitean Cratylus, Plato saw the sensible world as exemplifying a Heraclitean flux. Plato and Aristotle both criticized Heraclitus for a radical theory that led to a denial of the law of non-contradiction. The Stoics adopted Heraclitus's physical principles as the basis for their theories. So it's pretty clear that this is no ordinary philosopher. His metaphysical theories of the cosmos resemble a lot that of the eternal universe theory, which wasn't really disposed from the scientific community up until Edwin Hubble showed up. It took almost 2,500 years to come up with a more valid theory to better understand the universe in which we live in, while Heraclitus was puzzled about the complexity of space-time when he had nothing but his own mind. The obscurity behind his texts is undeniable, and his influence massive, despite what some may suggest that Heraclitus was purposefully making clear statements just to manipulate readers. A theory that doesn't seem far off his character. If there's anything you can learn from Heraclitus, is that the only limit that you have is the one you are forcing on yourself.